Hello, my friends. This is Mickey Desai, your regular host and producer of The Thing About Cars. I have on the line here a friend of mine that we're simply going to call Mike. And Mike wrote something that I read called Everything You Think You Know About Headlights is Wrong. And this is a subject that's, I think, of particular interest to me. I'm very much into automotive lighting and trying to get more light productively on the road in front of me, both for visibility and for safety. But Mike said some pretty enlightening things in that thread that I read. Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
So, how do you get into this business, and how do you know so much about lights?
Graduated college a while back. I was recruited by a big tier one supplier, and I've been in this business ever since. And how did I get into lights? Before I got so educated, I used to be that guy who dropped in the HID kits.
Yeah.
Told all his friends to drop in the HID kits. And as I started learning more and more, I started realizing that wow, this is a pretty dumb idea.
Because most people I know look upon HIDs as being like the ultimate, right? It's like the best, topmost upgrade that they can make to their lighting system for, for their car. And they all claim it takes less electricity and that it still produces more light. And apparently this is false, isn't that right?
It's a overgeneralization. HID headlamps, when designed by OEMs, when done correctly, can be excellent. The HIDs are kind of past their prime though in the OEM world. They are kind of like the CFL bulbs. If you think about home lighting, you first have your incandescent, then you have CFLs for a little while. Now we have LEDs. HIDs are kind of like the CFLs. They're kind of like this transitional technology. Pretty much no new luxury cars or any cars in the market today, at least in the US, have HID systems. Their market share never really exceeded 20%. They've kind of been superseded by LEDs, but yeah, at their prime, back in like the early 2000s, they were pretty much the gold standard. Yeah, so a lot of people, they want to drop HID kits in their car. They think, well, it's the ultimate in lighting. And the unfortunate fact is that when you drop an HID kit into a headlamp that wasn't originally designed around an HID bulb, you get a mess of light being put out everywhere. Sometimes it's going to end up in other people's eyes. Sometimes it's going to end up on the road too close to your car. You get too much foreground lighting. That's all because the HID bulb, it produces an arc with two hot spots. So hot spots are just the most intense areas of light from the bulb. So it has two hot spots. If you drop it into a halogen, projector or reflector, in a halogen bulbs only have one hot spot, and there's no arc of light. It's just a linear filament. So you have a complete mismatch of the light source with the optics, and then the optics cannot project the light correctly onto the road. And like I said, it might end up with glare, and you might end up with too much light too close to your vehicle.
And and that glare can actually be quite hazardous.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, yeah. There's been tests showing that the glare threshold, legal glare thresholds have been exceeded by 20, 30 times, with these drop-in HID kits. And that's,
20 or 30 times?
yeah, yeah, 20 to 30 times the amount of glare allowed.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. It is. And the most insidious thing is the foreground light, because you have all this light right in front of your car, maybe 10, 20, 30 feet, and people start to think, wow, this is really good. I can see way better, but the reality is, 30, 40, 50 feet in front of your car, you got all that light, you're driving 40 miles an hour at 60 feet a second. You
Mm-hmm.
know, do you need to see what's 30 feet in front of your car, or would you rather see what's 300 feet in front of your car? You know,
Mm-hmm.
because
So why doesn't the industry tell us more about that? Why doesn't the industry do a little more educating about what's safe and what's actually useful and productive in the world of automotive lighting?
so the industry doesn't really care about HID kits per se. Um, they don't really sell it. It does not hurt their core business. The industry really cares about just distributing to OEM suppliers. And if you want to, modify your halogen headlamp and put in the HID kit, that doesn't bother them. They already made the sale. Um, and also, the industry kind of has their fingers in the cookie jar too, especially when it comes to these LEDs. Because LEDs now are the rage, and The industry wants to capitalize on that. They don't want to tell everyone, oh, these LEDs are bad, because they're busy working on LED retrofit kits.
Right. So it does potentially hurt their business to
Yeah.
educate people.
Yeah. And you know the crazy thing is, you can go to any O'Reilly's, AutoZone, Napa, whatever today, and you can buy Sylvania branded LED brake light bulbs that do not work in any car. If you don't believe me, you go to AutoZone. I'll make you a bet. You pick up the 7443 Sylvania LED bulb, and you put that in the car. You turn on all the lights, you turn on all the tail lights, and you'll see that, yeah, the tail light does come on with the Sylvania LED. But if you push down on the brake, get a buddy to push down on the brake pedal for you, and you'll notice that the Sylvania LED 7443 bulb does not change in intensity, does not change in brightness at all. So it's like when you brake, no one can tell that you're braking. And that's the kind of stuff that they've been selling in stores for the last 2 or 3 years.
That's
And they don't care. That's their money maker, you know.
but selling a bulb that doesn't work, how do you justify doing something that looks the same whether or not the brake pedal is depressed?
How do they justify it?
Hmm.
I really have no idea how they justify it, to
Hmm.
be honest. But they've gotten away with it for the last 2, 3 years.
Well, and maybe that's the question. How do they get away with it? And don't drivers notice this, or do they simply just never look at the backs of their cars?
I feel like a lot of people, they put in the brake light bulb, the LED bulb, and they just go flick on the lights, and they walk back around, and it looks bright to them. I don't think that everyone, has a luxury of having two people,
Hmm.
help them out. And also, why hasn't the government noticed? Um, I ask myself that all the time. But the government is has been pretty hands off with regulating these kinds of products, dangerous products, since the mid 2000s. The government never really has taken the necessary role in exterminating these kinds of products from the market.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, you know what the screwy thing is? Um, Somebody high-ranking in NHTSA, NHTSA, National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, he used to participate actively on the forum dedicated to HID kits. They're always talking about, how do I install these illegal kits in my car, blah, blah, blah. And, he was right there. He was talking to them. He was joking with them. He was like, hey, if you want to talk about headlamps, why don't you meet me in Washington, D.C. in my office? and,
That's just
you know,
nuts
yeah.
because according to my calculations and according to some of the other stuff you've written about, people have died as a result of these things. They've severely handicapped their ability to see, and wrecks and deaths have occurred. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, yeah. And it's nobody has really quantified exactly how many people have died from these kits, but not being able to see at night, that's been quantified certainly.
Hmm.
And it's in the thousands every year, from not being able to see at night just due to headlamp haze. The old deteriorated headlamps that
Hmm.
kills thousands of people directly every day. I'm not every day, every year.
Hmm.
Um, and putting in some HID LED kit in your car that just does the same thing. It handicaps your ability to see just in another way.
Hmm. So we're talking about any LED kit, or I mean, I'm seeing a variety of LED replacements for headlights these days. Are we talking about all of them, or just a specific generation of them?
Oh, yeah, I'm talking about all of them. I just want to be very clear to all the listeners that
Yeah.
all LED kits on the market today are unacceptable. And let's just look at it from a common sense perspective. So we have, the SAE, Society of Automotive Engineers, a group of international engineers, and they've been working for the last 2 years on just writing down a set of standards to which these LED kits can be built. And they haven't been able to actually write down a set of standards for the last 2 years. And we're going to expect, some LED kits on Amazon.com that were imported from China to meet some sort of defensible standard. That just doesn't make any sense to me. The only standard that these LED kits from China meet is, does it turn on or not?
Hmm. All right.
And
I'm sitting here nodding, and no one can see me do that. But on the one hand, I can't say that I'm surprised, and on the other hand, I'm quite astonished because as much concern as the average American seems to think goes into automotive safety, Apparently there's not a lot of concern that goes into automotive safety unless it has something to do with gasoline or oil.
Absolutely, yeah. Those are more dramatic. You have a car explode, people take notice.
Right.
But when you hit a deer on the road, okay, that's your fault.
Right.
Um, and the unfortunate thing is, the crazy thing is that in 2010 there was a study done on factory headlamps. 50% of them, 50% of all new cars produced had at least one lamp misaimed from the factory. So they didn't, screw it in right, dial in, the aim setting right. But you think about it, all those cars came off the factory line. They had all their ball joints screwed in correctly. They had all their lug nuts screwed on correctly. But the headlamps, they don't have that screwed on correctly. They didn't have the aim dialed in correctly. And that's just crazy to me, you know. But
Yeah.
it speaks volumes about what the manufacturers care about. Because if you drive it home, your new car, and your ball joint falls out or pops out, that's a big problem.
Yep.
But when you hit that deer, I mean, they can blame it on you. That's your problem, even when it's technically, everyone's problem. The
Hmm.
manufacturer's problem and your problem.
That's just nuts. So,
Absolutely.
so as a man who likes modifying cars and likes making sure that I have the best that I can possibly do in the world of lighting for my vehicle, what then do you recommend are the steps that I should take to make sure that I do what I can to avoid road glare and just do the job correctly?
That's a great question. So what I say is, you got to approach headlamps like any other kind of automotive issue, problem, or upgrade. You have to identify the problem first before you start throwing parts at it. And too many times I see people say, my headlamps suck, and they jump straight to let's drop in an LED kit, and they fail to identify the problem. You know,
Hmm.
it's kind of like saying, like my car's kind of slow, so why don't I just jump to a an exhaust upgrade? But why don't you identify why it's slow? Maybe it's just not running right. Maybe you need new spark plugs. I don't know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, you don't need to
Same
go
with
straight to the
headlamps.
turbo.
Yeah, exactly. Straight same with the headlamps. A lot of people like to say the headlamps suck, but they're
Yeah.
running their OEM bulbs.
Yep.
And the unfortunate thing about OEM bulbs is that they start out sucky and they end up even more sucky. They're low output bulbs to begin with, and that's just so that you get out the warranty period without having to run back to the dealer and complaining about burnout bulbs.
Hmm.
So that's the first thing I would start with. If your headlamps aren't hazy, yellowed, cracked, otherwise deteriorated by the sun.
Hmm.
Um, if they are deteriorated by the sun, at the very minimum, polish them back up, seal them correctly. If not, if they're beyond repair,
Right.
yeah, replace them with an OEM housing. Because there were tests done on aftermarket housings, and some of them from major name brands could even physically fit vehicles like a Ford Taurus.
Huh.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And polishing them up. I mean, I've even taken extremely, extremely sun damaged plastic lenses and cleaned them up myself with a mother's kit, a mother's buffing kit, and they came out great. It wasn't that hard to do at all. It took me about an hour one day, and I just advocate for everybody to do that. If they think they have super sun damaged lenses, it's an easy enough thing to do. But once we do that, if you're like me, you don't just stop there. Once you clean up the lenses and everything looks crystal clear again, I'm going to go out to the parts store and I'm going to pick up the best light bulbs I can buy. They're still going to be OEM bulbs, probably halogen bulbs, but what do you think about the difference between, say, a standard Sylvania bulb versus what they call the Silver Star? I think it's called they have like three different degrees of superiority among these bulbs, and Philips has their own like Crystal Vision Ultra or something like that. What do you think about those brand names? Do you think they're worth it? Do you think the upgrades within the OEM set are worth it, or what?
The only bulbs I would get at a parts store would be the Sylvania Extra Visions. The unfortunate thing about the Silver Stars and the Silver Star Ultras is that they've been overhyped and they're overpriced and they're frankly underperforming. But that's not something that the industry wants you to know. Um, the best bulbs you can get, I don't think most parts stores sell these, but they're the Philips Extreme Vision bulbs. I think the only parts store that I know of that sells Philips bulbs is Pep Boys. most other places stick with Sylvania. But yeah, the Silver Star and the Silver Star Ultras, those are, for lack of a better term, sort of a scam. They were actually hit with a lawsuit a couple years back. You know,
Oh,
um,
I did not know that.
yeah, they claimed that their headlamps were their bulbs were brighter, but that was in comparison with an aged bulb running at 80% power. I mean,
No truth in advertising.
no, no, and I mean, of course, when you compare a bulb running at full bore to something running at 80% power,
Yes, of
you
course.
know,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, of course. What are you going to find? Exactly.
yeah.
So stick with the halogens. Don't go nuts. Don't fall for the hype. And I've written down Philips Extra Vision. What was it? Philips
Oh, Philips Extreme Vision.
Extreme Vision. Okay, now I'm going to
Yeah,
write that down, and I'm going to I'm going to do my upgrade right away.
yeah, absolutely.
So let's talk about, we've talked about headlights this entire time, but what about fog lights? The theory that you get a set of lights closer to the road so that they can undercut the fog and not create so much fog glare. Are we still talking about the same kind of advice for drivers, or am I allowed to put like a very thin light bar down there that just illuminates the road from like 6 to 10 inches off the road?
Yeah, so fog lights. The unfortunate thing about fog lamps is that they've become pretty much useless in the last 20 years.
Hmm.
Before that, manufacturers used to equip their cars, like real fog lamps that would actually illuminate out a significant difference. I mean, significant distance, maybe about 100 feet. But more and more manufacturers, their fog lamps maybe illuminate out about 10, 15 feet at most. And at that distance, think about it, 40 miles per hour is 60 feet a second.
Yes.
That means 20 miles an hour is 30 feet a second. If you're even at 20 miles an hour, you're going 30 feet per second. If you can only see 30 feet out with your fog lamps, you're not going to be able to see anything in time to stop for it. You're just going to see exactly what it is that you're going to hit. Um, so fog lamps on modern vehicles, my advice to people is that when they burn out, just leave them off, or better yet, just leave them completely off. I got fog lamps, but I don't use them because they're not useful.
Right.
Um, they just basically cosmetic toys. They just let me know that, or they just let other people know that I've upgraded, to the extra luxury trim. I got fog lamps in my package. That's that's basically what they're for now.
I agree. I think, gone are the days like, and I don't know why the industry did that. For a while you could go out and get a set of CBA or Marshall lamps that were actually, I can't think of the word. It was like a Fresnel lens. They were fluted properly. They were carved properly. They actually did a technical job of projecting. And now it just seems like everything is just plastic with a few LEDs stuck in it, and it's just throwing light out there without any. It's like the difference between finessing a solution and just ham-handing a solution, and so what we're seeing now is LEDs are ham-handing the approach to putting light on the front of the cars. There's no finesse involved anymore. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree with that?
Yeah, I agree to that in some ways. In terms of fog lamps, yeah, it's very easy. It's for in terms of packaging, especially, it's very advantageous to just slap a row of LEDs on there.
Hmm.
Um, it definitely takes up less space in the grill. It's lighter. You don't need as much support on the grill or the bumper area. Um, and yeah, it looks cool, which is what a lot of people care about now. They don't really care about the performance. Um, but LEDs, for headlamps, on the other hand, in most cars, LEDs are very beneficial.
Hmm.
LED headlamps. In some cars, though, such as the Volkswagen, the new Jetta, it has upgraded LED headlamps. But the unfortunate thing is that they only put out about 500 lumens on the road.
Huh.
That's about that's about the same as a state of the art headlamp system from the 1970s.
Right.
To quote somebody I know. um, it's pretty so you pretty much paying the extra price for that LED headlamp, and you're getting the same performance as something from the 1970s,
Right.
H4 headlamp system. But hey, it looks cool. I mean, I can't deny that.
All right,
but
so let's recap. We've talked about the industry really misleading the public in terms of what lights are able to do. We've talked about misconceptions that people have about what's safe and what's not safe. We've talked a little bit about what to do with your headlights if you're looking to clean them up and upgrade, and what not to do. But I'm still sort of shocked at the notion that again, the original title of what you wrote was completely correct. Everything I thought I knew about headlights was wrong. How do we get the word out to more people besides podcasts like this? I mean, I still think we live in a world where people are just going to go out and try to modify their cars, and they can cheaply and easily stick in a set of super bright light bulbs, and they're not really making things better for anybody else or themselves.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so hard to get solid information about headlamps because a lot of this stuff is under NDA, and like you said, the industry likes to mislead because they got stuff to sell. So the best way to educate people, I feel that definitely, participating, especially I see a lot of people on Facebook, and like maybe the Toyota RAV4 owners Facebook group or the Honda, Accord owners Facebook group. They love to post pictures about, oh my God, I got these new LEDs from Amazon. It looks so great in my car. Here's some pictures.
Yep.
I feel that if you own one of these vehicles, maybe you could participate in one of these groups
Mm-hmm.
and say, hey, that's probably not that smart, buddy. There's other things you could do.
That's cool. Well,
Yeah,
thank you for your time on this. Is there any parting words of advice you would have for any of the listeners related to this matter?
absolutely. Yeah. The best advice I have
Mm-hmm.
is that just be careful about what you read online. There's so much propaganda regarding these bulbs, these kits, LED kits. It's so hard to sort the fact from the truth. I mean the fact from the falsehoods. And just remember, if your car was designed for halogens, you want to stick with halogens. If it was designed for HIDs, stick with HIDs. There's no LED retrofit kit. That's an acceptable upgrade today, as of right now. In a
Right.
couple of years, there will be. Once the experts actually get their standards written down and manufacturers start releasing compliant products, yeah, go crazy. But as of today, no.
Right. So in the end, being safe and being courteous is still the cooler thing to do than actually just getting some expensive upgrades done to your car when they're really not upgrades. They're sort of downgrades.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Too many people think that they're upgrades, but the reality is they're just complete downgrades across the board.
Yeah. Mike, thanks for your time. This has been really great. I appreciate you taking the time.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Thing About Cars. We'll see you on the road.